Preventing diseases through good management. Fish diseases may cause severe losses on fish farms, and it may cause reduced fish growth and production, increased feeding costs caused by lack of appetite and waste of uneaten feed, increased vulnerability to predation, increased susceptibility to low water quality, and above all, death of fish. It may be difficult to avoid fish diseases completely. It is better to try to prevent their occurrence rather than to allow them to develop, and then attempting to cure them once they start to cause problems. Several and effective treatments can be used for prevention or early control of diseases before it comes to serious. Applying good management practices is a must. Remember, disease prevention on the fish farm is better than cure. So, here is the list of good management in preventing diseases in fishes. Ensure good water quality. Sufficient supply with adequate dissolved oxygen, concentration, and free of pollution. Water quality is the determining factor on the success or failure of an aquaculture operation. Within the growing aquaculture industry here in the Philippines, it is accepted that good water quality is needed for maintaining viable aquaculture production. Poor water quality can result in low profit, low product quality, and potential human health risk. Production is reduced when the water contains contaminants that can impair development, growth, reproduction, or even cause mortality to the cultured species. Also, as you can see in the picture, there are the parameters as well as indicated the standard values needed in the operation of fish farm. One of the parameters included is the dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen is considered as one of the most important aspects of aquaculture. It is needed by fish to respire and perform metabolic activities. Thus, low levels of dissolved oxygen are often linked to fish kill incidents. On the other hand, optimum levels can result to good growth, thus result to high production yield. The amount of oxygen consumption varies depending on the size, feeding rate, activity level, and species. Free from pollution means that the farm is far from getting diseases that may infect the fishes. Good water quality is maintained as well as the enough dissolved oxygen concentration needed by the fishes. Number two, keep the pond environment healthy, controlling the pond silt and also controlling unwanted plants. So here is a picture depicting the controlling the unwanted plants, the before and after, in a pond. So silt will be found in just about any pond, lake, or river in the land. It can be any combination of sand, clay, soil, leaf material, fish or fish waste, and any other organic material. Silt will build up in watercourse over time, and if left unmanaged, will eventually cause a watercourse to dry up as plants, shrubs, and trees will become established within the footprint once silt levels reach the surface. So term, another prevention is the control unwanted plants. Many different aquatic plants can be found in, on, and around fish ponds. These plants range from microscopic organisms known as plankton algae, which drift suspended in the water, to larger plants rooted in the pond bottom. Certain types of aquatic plants are essential for fish production. However, aquatic plants that interfere with commercial fish production are considered to be weeds. Basic methods used to control weeds include preventive, Example of that is using of the fertilization. Next is the mechanical. Example of that is aquatic weed scatters and harvesters. Next one is biological. Example of that is using one of species of fishes, the grass carp. Grass carp is a species of large herbivorous freshwater fish. And last one is the chemical technique, using herbicides. Determining which of these technique to use involves considering to the target weed species, fish production objectives for the pond, secondary water uses, and the cost of treatment options. So in this picture, depicting the silt removal in a fish pond, the before and after. Number three, keep a healthy and balance of phytoplankton and zooplankton and exchange water if needed. Phytoplankton is an important source of dissolved oxygen. In the daytime, these plants produce oxygen by photosynthesis at a much faster rate than oxygen can diffuse from atmosphere into the water pan. So how does phytoplankton affect fishes? Phytoplankton species composition matters to fish and other organisms higher in the marine food web, and including humans. Some phytoplankton are more nutritious than others and are strong determinants of fish production, whereas others are harmful and can kill fish or contaminate seafood with potent toxins. So another one is healthy balance of zooplankton. So zooplankton are preferred natural food for larval stage of fish and prawn. The zooplankton community is an important element of the aquatic food chain. These organisms serves as an intermediary species in the food chain, transferring energy from planktonic algae or the primary producers to the larger invertebrate predators and fish who in turn feed on them. When there is too much plankton due to excess nutrients in the water, harmful algal blooms can result. This can decrease the sunlight and oxygen in the water, which can disrupt the natural ecosystem. So it is important to keep the healthy balance of the phytoplankton and also the zooplankton to avoid um, toxicity in the water. Last one is water exchange. It's also a means of improving other water quality condition. If dissolved oxygen concentration in a pond is low and the water in the supply canal has high dissolved oxygen concentration, high water exchange rates can improve dissolved oxygen concentrations in the pond. So number four, use mechanical aeration. So what is a mechanical aeration? The use of machinery to mix air and water so that oxygen can be absorbed in the water. Some examples are paddle wheels, mixers, or rotating brushes to agitate the surface of an aeration tank, pumps to create fountains, and pumps to discharge water down to series of steps forming falls or cascades. So in the picture, you can see is an example of mechanical aeration. Mechanical aeration is used widely in pond aquaculture to prevent low dissolved oxygen concentrations, especially at night, improve the efficiency of feed use, and increase production of the culture species. So number five, disinfect the pond regularly. Um, it can be used simple methods such as allowing the pond to dry after each crop. So why you should need to clean the pond? Waste material which is settled in the pond may contain unwanted organisms and microbes from the previous culture. During pond preparation for a new culture, the waste from the previous culture should be removed to attain the good physical condition and healthy environment. Decaying debris, fish waste, and uneaten fish food accumulate quickly on the pond's floor. Make sure that cleaning the pond regularly to avoid spike in the water's ammonia level. Adding beneficial microbes like aquascapes beneficial bacteria help your pond maintain a balanced ecosystem. It is a product used in maintaining balanced ecosystem in a pond. So the drying of a pond bottom is the most practical and cheap and effective method of eliminating undesirable species in pond prior to culture period. Drying drying oxidizes harmful chemical substances, especially sulfides, and facilitates mineralization of organic matter. So why it is necessary to dry the pond until the soil cracks? Make sure that the pond soil is dried every time the pond is harvested. Periodic drying stabilizes soil colloids and oxidizes organic matters that encourage the growth of natural fish foods. Draining and drying eradicate competitor fishes and predators and kill diseases causing organisms.
So keep the fish in good condition. Example is controlling the stocking density by placing only the recommended amount of fish in each ponds. So stocking density per unit stocking amount or stocking rate. Or it is the quantity of fry or fingerlings per unit of water. It has direct effects on the growth, survival, and the production. So here, the example is tilapia stocking. A pond of small pond area is 270 square meters. The total lettuce input is 1,500. The density fish per hectare is 1,296. For the small pond, the weight is 15 grams, biomass of 19.4 kilograms per hectare. So during tilapia harvesting, the weight of the in small pond is 490 grams with a biomass of 635 kilogram per hectare with a yield of 615 kilogram per hectare and growth rate of 1.4 grams per day and a survival rate of 100%. The next is keep different sizes of or sexes separate if necessary to control the fighting. Wounds can become inflamed, leading to disease problems. So here is the example of controlling the stocking density. Next is keep different sizes or sexes separate to control fighting. Wounds can become inflamed, leading to disease problems. So it is done by grading and sorting. So grading is used when harvesting juvenile fish, separating fast and slow grower, and avoid predation. Next is sorting. Sorting of fish of the same group to avoid fighting. As we all know, there are some species that fighting is common in male or in female. Fighting can lead to inflammation and thus bacterial infection. Most common bacteria is encountered is Aeromonas salmonicida. Here are points to identify the inflammation. Red spot on the body, ulcers on gills, enlarged eyes, and swollen abdomen. Ensure good food supply. Make sure that the feed is not spoiled or deteriorated. So here are the points. Avoid low quality feeds and in storage. Upon arrival in the farm, feed should be segregated according to the production batches. Older feeds should be withdrawn first. So handle the fish properly, especially during harvesting and sorting or grading. Use fishing gear with size appropriate to the size of all fish. So here is the table for the gear type. POA gel, size of 3 to 5 centimeter. Current gel is 6 centimeter for gill or drip nets. Ito siya. Next is care for the fish during storage and transport. Selecting water during transport. In here, cool water is recommended for long period of transport. Checking of water quality during transport. Organizing fish for best result. Then holding fish in storage. Using of warm water is recommended for only 12 to 24 hours and cool water is for 48 hours.
Prevent the entry of diseases from outside the farm. It is done by controlling wild fish using filters and screens and by regularly removing wild fish from canals and ponds. As you can see here in the illustration, the water from the canal passes through a filter and directly goes through the pond. Good fish farm management requires proper control over water supplies and their quality. Water filtering devices are commonly used to improve water quality by reducing turbidity and removing some of the suspended organic materials such as plant debris. Also, to limit the introduction of wild fish, which can compete for food, transmit infections and diseases, and reduce the farm's production. And lastly, to keep farmed fish from escaping from the pond. There are several types of water filter, from very simple devices suitable for small rural fish farms to more elaborate filters better adapted to the larger water flows or special needs of commercial farms. The location of these devices within the farm may vary. Some are set up on individual ponds, while others can service the whole fish farm. Some are specifically used for pond inlets. As you can see, this table will help you choose the most appropriate filtering device. Here are some examples of the flexible filters that can be used. Perforated tin can, a tunnel made of split or woven bamboo, or a cap made of wire or plastic mesh. Water filtering devices should be properly maintained to retain both their filtering efficiency and their water discharge capacity. Clean them regularly according to the water turbidity and the amount of material collected. Check them and repair them as soon as the filtering efficiency alters. Remember that the smaller the particle size your filter can retain, the more susceptible it becomes to clogging, and the more frequently you should check it and clean it. Next is to disinfect all fish stocks imported from outside as eggs, juveniles, or adults. Antimicrobials are used in fish farming to control bacterial diseases, ectoparasites, fungal outbreaks, as well as to improve poor water quality, sterilize eggs and equipment, and control aquatic weeds and free-living mollusks. One example of a disinfectant used is Virkon Aquatic. It is a concentrated disinfectant powder that when mixed with water forms a powerful cleaning and disinfecting solution with efficacy against fish viruses, bacteria, fungi, and molds. Virkon Aquatic is the ultimate disinfectant for use in fish culture operations. It is independently proven to be highly effective against significant aquatic pathogens and is used around the world. Next is if a disease breaks out on the farm, remove dead or dying fish from the pond as quickly as possible. It is important to remove dead fish because if you neglect the affected dead fish, their bodies will decay within 2 to 4 weeks depending on the temperature. Fish decomposition creates high amounts of nutrients, and the fertile waters will gradually restore natural balance. But since the pond cannot immediately rebalance, there is an increased chance that it will suffer green algae blooms. In worst-case scenarios, nutrients from decay will trigger the highly toxic blue-green algae bloom. If your pond has no aquatic vegetation nor trees along the shoreline, you greatly increase risk for an algae bloom. Ideally, you should complete dead fish removal from the pond before the flies cover the fish, because flies are unsanitary. To prevent disease, you must bury, incinerate, or compost the fish in a manner that will not invite pests or contaminate the environment. Next is to disinfect fishing gear regularly. Why is it important to disinfect fish gear regularly? Because some germs can live up to 5 months on a dry surface. Germs on any surface can pass to you or another person. This is why it is important to disinfect supplies and equipment. To disinfect something means to clean it to destroy germs. And not just germs, but also viral, parasitic, fungal, and bacterial pathogens. Disinfection recommendations vary depending on the type of equipment and disease of concern. Here are the following effective disinfection techniques. First is by using hot water. Hot water is an effective disinfection agent for all aquatic invasive species and fish diseases. Soak all equipment in hot water at least 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 seconds. Next is by using bleach. Bleach is also a very effective disinfectant agent. However, it is a caustic substance that can be corrosive to aluminum and other sensitive fishing and boating equipment. So you must soak or spray equipment for at least 1 minute with a 2% bleach solution. Next is by using potassium chloride. It is commonly used as a substitute for calcium chloride in table salt and home water softeners. It also does not have the corrosive side effects of some other cleaning agents. A 200 parts per million solution is recommended. Cleaning your gears helps to protect your water resources from the spread of invasive species. The practice of disinfection will help prevent the spread of disease caused by viral, parasitic, fungal, and bacterial pathogens. And lastly is to make a simple disinfecting bath for fish using common salt in a 3% solution for 5 minutes. Ordinary table salt or sodium chloride is a useful remedy for the prevention and treatment of several freshwater fish diseases. It assists in the healing of injuries, promotes the formation of slime coating, improves gill function, reduces the uptake of nitrite, decreases osmotic stress, and is even effective against some external parasites. However, some plant and fish species cannot tolerate much salt, so it must be used with caution. So when to use salt? The use of salt can be beneficial during nitrite poisoning. The addition of a 1/2 ounce or 1 level tablespoon of salt per gallon of fresh water is beneficial for preventing nitrite from poisoning your fish in a newly set up tank. Next is for parasites. Many external parasites can be effectively reduced with the use of salt, particularly Koschia infestations. Common table salt is suitable, however, it should be non-iodized and contain no additives. Rock salt or kosher salt are excellent choices as they are pure sodium chloride with nothing else added. Water conditioner salt, sold in 50-pound bags, is good to use for ponds, but should not contain prussic acid or other additives. The quantity of salt added to the water will depend on how and what it is used for. There are actually two types of treatment. First is a dip treatment. It is a short exposure to medication that is useful for the eradication of parasites. The high concentration of salt in the water will cause the parasites to come off the skin of the fish. For dips, freshwater fish can be placed in an aerated container of salted water with up to 3% salinity for 5 minutes and up to 30 minutes or until they lay on the bottom or roll on their side. Next is bath treatments. Essentially mean that you are treating the entire quarantine tank. Baths are useful for the treatment of stress, nitrite poisoning, and some parasites. Salt concentrations for a bath are lower at 1/2% or less and are maintained for up to 3 weeks. That ends my discussion about preventing diseases through good management.